Hi, Ken. This is Chris Meyer. I'm a domestic violence lawyer for the greater Houston area, and also I'm a big fan of empathy, finding ways to build rapport with people, and how can I better learn how to get myself in somebody else's shoes and be able to kind of walk around. So can you tell us what is NLP and how can I use this to help me know what somebody might be thinking?
All right. And thank you, Chris, for inviting me to your podcast here. I appreciate that invitation. And yes, let's talk about Neuro-linguistic programming, abbreviated NLP. Now that sounds really scary. Neuro-linguistic programming. Okay.
Yeah. So what is it?
It's a psychological communications methodology. It's like how to communicate better. I'll break down those individual words. Neuro refers to what's going on in our head, our mind, our brain, how we're thinking and everything. Linguistic refers to language. We process everything out there in reality through self-talk, like, this is dangerous, or I don't believe that person, or wow, this looks good. So we talk to ourselves, okay? So that's language, it's linguistic. And programming is, this started when we were infants and we learned to talk, and then we went to, elementary school, middle school, programming. Over the decades, we start to organize our thoughts and behaviors, subjectively, in certain ways. We start to see the world out there, objective reality, in our own way.
Okay.
And this results in, we program ourselves, specifically our brains. This is how we're going to interact with the world. So neuro, brain, linguistic, words, and programming, we all, in a unique way, we all program ourselves to like this, to not to like that, how to interact with the world. Now, this NLP came about in the mid-1970s.
Okay.
There are two scholars, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. They had a book, The Structure of Magic, a book about language and therapy. And I wanted to be a trial attorney. I was in law school at that time. I got the book. I studied it. I thought, whoa, this is very interesting, okay? Because I wanted to interact like with juries and clients and witnesses, and I had always been in speech and debate. So I really liked this, and I totally bought into the idea that people have preferred representational systems for processing information, communications. They're going to hear things, see things, feel things their own way. And that if you could, get on the same track with them, you will have a better communication. Okay? So I liked it. And also, as I got out of law school, I went into the Navy JAG Corps because I wanted to do trials immediately, not just wait around for 5 years until some partner let me do a trial. I also came across this crazy statistic. The statistic said that in all communications, especially persuasive communications, what persuaded people were only 7% verbal content. 38% was your vocal impressions, and 55% was visual impressions. So that statistic really, it made a big deal for me, because I realized, okay, I'm talking about certain things. Yes, I have to be competent, but wow, how I say it is going to matter more than what I'm saying, and how I look to the people I'm interacting with, that's going to matter. Wow, that's a little bit scary, but if that's the reality, then, I'll go with it. And I started to see that in practice. For example, there would be kids who said, I was valedictorian in law school, or I was on the law review and everything. And they'd be lousy attorneys. Nobody liked them. Everybody said they're jerks, and they couldn't even win jury trials, okay? And then you had some other kid who got straight C pluses in law school, and he works part-time as a bartender, and he wins all his jury trials, and all the people like him.
Can I interrupt you real quick about that? I heard a saying in law school. It said A students become professors, B students become judges, and C students become millionaires because they might not be book smart, but they have better social skills. But keep going.
Absolutely. Chris, you hit the nail on the head. It's the social skills, okay? And that's what NLP is all about. How to interact either with one client or a couple of clients on the opposite side of the desk from you in your office, or to a jury, okay, in a courtroom. You're looking at different people, trying to get into rapport with this person, that person. It's all about, you know, the successful interacting, okay? It doesn't mean, okay, just because you got straight A pluses or something, you're going to be the best attorney at that. No, it's these other skills, okay? And so, you know, that's when I realized I'm really going to do this. And then once I got into private practice, after I got out of the Navy JAG Corps after 4 years, I opened up my own law firm in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I started studying NLP. I hired a business consultant, and he also knew NLP. And so then I even had everyone in my law firm, every Aloha Friday in the afternoon, we would practice NLP. Like, what do you say if the insurance adjuster says, how do you answer that? Or how do you answer a client who says, I have to think about it, I don't know. So these situations come up again and again and again. So why not try to figure out, okay, when this happens, what's the best way to deal with it? And so we practiced the NLP. And the premise of getting into rapport, because I felt if you're in rapport, you can do anything, okay? Mm-hmm. So, and again, rapport is people like people who are like themselves. So if the person on the other side of the desk, whether it's a potential prospective new client or an insurance adjuster, or a defense attorney, because I do plaintiff's personal injury, you know, if he or she says, yeah, Ken Sabath, he's just like me. Yeah, I get it. Okay. We're gonna have better outcomes. Let me give you an example of rapport, by the way. Suppose you walk into an elevator at a skyscraper, and you see the person has a T-shirt. It says Del Barton Prep School. And you go, hey, did you go to Del Barton? He goes, yeah, I did. So did I. What was your class? I was class of 80. Oh, I was class of 74. Where did you live in New Jersey? Mm-hmm. Oh, I lived in Union. Union? I lived in Union. So you see, in that little interchange, you know, the two communicators are getting into rapport. Oh, you went to the same school. You lived in the same place. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's rapport. That's what I'm talking about. It's that state of being. Okay, you're like me. We have things in common. You probably understand me. I probably understand you. I like you. I think you like me. You know, so that's the rapport that I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to give the audience a homework assignment, too.
Okay.
There's another good example. Go into a restaurant, crowded restaurant. Look for a table of like 5 or 6 people. You know what you're going to see? If it's 6 people, 5 of them are going to be leaning forward, smiling, laughing, talking. One of them is going to be leaning backwards with his arms folded across his chest. He's not in rapport. He doesn't like what's going on. Now, if I was sitting at that table and I wanted to bring that guy into the conversation, I might lean back, you know, put my hands over my chest and say, hey, Bob, you know, so we're talking about this. How do you feel about it? Blah, 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 and try to bring him in because I know he's not with us. Mm-hmm. Okay? He's resisting. He doesn't like something. Something's wrong. So then I'll try to bring him into rapport. So what I want the people to do, the audience, is to look in the restaurant and look around and notice whether it's 2 people or a group. They're probably matching and mirroring certain body postures, both leaning forward or both like 90-degree angles sitting or both everyone's slouched around, you know. They are in rapport. So watch that. And now I also want to mention something. Rapport is very similar to empathy, but it's not. My people at my law firm recently asked me how would I describe empathy. And I said, well, okay, I go to the beach, the sand is hot as I walk towards the ocean, then it's wet and cold, and then the waves are washing up on my feet, and I look out and I see there's white caps, and the wind is picking up, and the flag behind me is whipping in the breeze. I see these big black clouds, and a little bit of lightning in the dark clouds. It seems it's coming towards me. I'm kind of at one with nature. Okay.
Yeah, so you're like present. Is that what would be the way to
Yes,
describe it? Like being mindful,
absolutely.
being present. You're noticing
Absolutely.
the waves, the smells, the feel the
Mm-hmm.
wind. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening.
Okay. And for me, that's about the end of empathy, because I feel I know what nature is experiencing right now. A storm is coming. Okay. And in a sense, with people, you can be empathetic with them. You sense their situation. But rapport goes further, okay, at least in the NLP context. Rapport is more transactional. It's more like the down and dirty, the business, okay? Client walks in, sits down, he starts talking, okay, I want a divorce. All right, I see on the sheet you wanted a divorce on this intake form here. Tell me about it. Well, my mother said that there was no good, and he was no good, and he's a two-timer, and he didn't get this. Okay, and you're like, yeah, oh, I see, you know? And
that's definitely my job, yeah.
Right.
Definitely sounds like a consultation, but keep going.
Right. But then there comes a point where if you know the NLP, you're going to say, stop. Okay? I hear you saying your mother said he was no good all along. You agree with that now?
Yeah.
And your mother said you need to get the marriage is irretrievable program. And you agree with that? And your mother told you to come to this law firm and get okay, we're ready to get started. This would be, cash, check, credit card. The fee would cover this because you said it's going to be because you don't have to listen all day. Once you're in rapport and they like you and you're giving the feedback, then you could stop and take it where you want to, okay? Because you can't spend the entire day with this prospective new client having them summarize the breakdown of their marriage over 15 years, okay? You have other clients, okay? So that's why I'm saying the rapport in the NLP context is a little more business-like. You want to influence the other side's behavior for a specific outcome, okay? Here's my attorney-client fee agreement. You got to sign here. If you make payment at the front desk out there, and blah blah blah, I need you to fill out these forms. So it's like let's move it, okay? Move it. The empathy is the feeling. I understand where you're coming from, okay? But rapport is a little bit more action.
Okay, so help me out here. So in order to have rapport with someone, is it necessary to be empathetic first, or is it empathy a necessary requirement to have rapport, or is it?
Yes, I think it is. I think
like a pathway to have rapport. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Because if you're not caring to feel what it's like for them to step into their shoes, it's going to be hard to get in rapport. So in a sense, rapport and empathy start out the same. It's just rapport is going to be how you match, mirror, lead, pace, and bring them to the outcome that you want. Okay? It's not just being empathetic. I'm so sad for your situation. So, no, we're going somewhere with this. Sign my attorney-client fee agreement. You put down the retainer out there. But you need to fill out these forms. I'll need you to come back on Monday. We're going to prep for the temporary restraining order hearing. We're going to move it.
Okay, so empathy is me. Okay, I feel someone else's pain. I understand where they're coming from. I can walk around in their shoes. But taking it a step further and saying, okay, we're going to get you a protective order. Now, is that like the rapport? Because it's not just empathy anymore. It's like now we're going to take an action. We're going to do something about it.
Yes, exactly. At least that's how I see it, and that's how I've always interpreted it. Okay? Reasonable minds could differ. And again, I don't have a PhD or a master's in neuro-linguistic programming. I've just done it for 45 years. Okay? So, I can't say that other scholars wouldn't have a different interpretation of empathy and rapport, but that's kind of how I see it. And that's how I use it. Okay? And by the way, I just want to add that if any audience members want to look up NLP, I'll tell you this. I've tracked it for the past, since the 1970s, okay? And I'd say 80% of it right now I don't like. I don't like the way it's kind of devolved into almost a pseudoscience. So I would throw away 80%. But there is the original 20% that is very, very valuable. And I would just say keep it simple. If you start reading about NLP, just go for things like talking fast or slow, loud or soft, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, auditory, digital, body postures, because NLP has become almost like Freudian psychoanalysis. We don't need that. You know, as lawyers, doctors, we don't have to do psychoanalysis. We just want to get in rapport, okay, and then lead people, okay, this is what we're going to do. I advise you to do this, and, you know, have good, clear communication. We don't need to go all the way into their childhood and figure out why they're behaving. You know,
well, I don't need I don't feel I need to understand the nuts and bolts of how the brain works, but just you know, how do I how do I build the rapport and be able to do something without understanding
exactly what's helpful, what's useful, what's practical. Okay, it's become rather esoteric, and I think practitioners really don't need all of that. Anyway, hey, let's get into the body here.
Okay.
When you're getting into rapport, there's two ways. There's verbal cues and there's nonverbal cues. Okay? The verbal cues, the two easiest, I just mentioned them, would be tonality. To get into rapport, you want to match and mirror the dynamics of the other person's speaking. So if they're talking really fast, you want to talk fast because blah, 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 okay? Mm-hmm. If they're talking really loud, then you should be able to talk loud. Again, at least for a while. But once you're in rapport, you can take them out of that state to a better, more resourceful state. And you say, wait a minute. What would we do if blah, blah, blah? And they'll lean forward and say, I don't know. What? So you can taste them by being like them for a while. And then stop it.
Because I could easily see, like if I have a client in my office complaining about losing custody of their kids, I could see how talking about it can get them triggered and upset. So I could see I want to match that, but at the same time I want to tell them, okay, stop and let's slow down and knock it down a few notches because we don't want emotions.
Precisely.
I don't want emotions to hijack the case, you know. So
but
how do
for a while, just for a little while, you do want to match it.
Of course.
She did what? And that's what happened to the child? And then she called the police? So for a while, you play along with that. But that's not a very resourceful state. You want to stop that. But you want to get in rapport, and then you want to say, okay, stop. There's something called a temporary restraining order. And then you bring it back to normality. Okay? So let me give you an example here. Imagine a little old lady walks into a Big Mac's used car lot, and she's old and very timid, has a cane, and Big Mac has a big, a stupid hat on and a loud plaid sports jacket. But if he knows NLP, he'll watch the woman for a while, then walk over to her and say, "May I help you?" And the little old lady might say, "I'm here just to see, maybe I could afford a used car." Now, what Big Mac should do is say, "Oh, you've come to the right place. I can help you. Do you have a certain make or model?" And, "Oh, yes. Because if he says, "Wow, you've come to the right place. We have the best used cars here," it's going to scare the little old lady away. She's going to become intimidated. So you want to, like the train. Remember I said locomotive clicks with the rest of the train, then it can take it where it wants. Big Mac, he wants to sell a car. But he can't scare away the little old lady. So he has to get in rapport with her, and then he shows her the cars, and then he can say, "Okay, well, let's come into the office now. We can sign the paperwork." Blah, 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 blah. But you better match and mirror this prospective customer's, tonality.
Unless they have unreasonable expectations, then maybe you don't want to match and mirror. You kind of want them to go away.
Oh, that is true. This is this cuts both ways.
Yeah.
You know, as a professional, you know, let's say a lawyer, if you're sensing the person wants vengeance, okay, he has a car accident, but he doesn't care for fair, reasonable compensation for medical bills and pain and suffering. He wants vengeance, and
He wants to go to the Texas. He wants to go to the Texas Supreme Court, and he wants you to do it for free.
Yeah, for the principal. I guess you've heard this before. Then
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
The money doesn't mean anything to me. And of course, the real knuckleheads will say, "I want to go to the United States Supreme Court," because they don't even know what they're talking about. When you realize it's that kind of person, and you've been in rapport a little bit, then you could break and say, "Well, you know, I'm really busy. You know, this is my competitor. He's really good. I'm sure he'd love to do that. You know, here's his card or here's his name.
I do that a lot.
Get out of my life."
Everything's very fact intensive. Every case is unique. But yeah, sometimes it's better not to match in there and make them go away.
Well, that's when you break the rapport.
Yeah, break the rapport.
Maybe you just stand up and say, "I don't think this is going to work. You know, I can blah, 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 blah." You give some reason, and you start walking towards the door, and you show them out. You break the rapport. If you stay in rapport, you'll be wasting your time all afternoon. Unless you really want to wreak vengeance on someone and go to the Texas Supreme Court or United States Supreme Court or the New York Times because this is what the person is thinking. Mm-hmm. You know, so you just call it like, no, I'm not going to represent this person. Next. You know? Yeah.
Well, I have especially in family law, I get a lot of crazy leads, and I have to make quick decisions. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this will be good. I think this is not going to be a good fit for my law firm, that kind of thing. But keep going.
Exactly. Right. Now, so speed, talking fast, talking slow, talking loud, talking soft, that's easy. The next four things are a little harder: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, auditory, digital. Some people are visual. Their way of interacting with the world is they always have these visual mental images. Their breathing, their speeches. You can probably tell I'm kind of a visual. You know, I'm going fast and, you know, shallow breathing, and they say things, "Oh, I see what you mean," or "Imagine this," or "Just visualize such and such. Look at it this way. Picture this." See, those are the verbs, the language they're going to use. That's how you know, I'm dealing with a visual here. And so then you're going to want to do some visual things. I'll give you an example of, you know, a very easy example. Martin Luther King Jr. said, you know, "I have a dream." First of all, dream is a, you know, mental visualization, okay? That little children of every color, black, brown, white, yellow, will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have seen the promised land. So right in there, dream, colors, black, brown, white, yellow, seen the promised land. He's a visual. Feeling in these images. So if you're working with another attorney or judge and you sense they're visual, then you want to, you know, picture this, Your Honor. Your Honor, imagine this. Counsel, you know, could you see, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're going to get into their way of processing everything. So that there's a meeting of the minds, and that's what you want. You want clear communication, and you want them to think, "Oh yeah, he gets it. He understands me." Here, let me move on to auditory. As you might guess. Okay, their breathing's a little more rhythmic. Usually it's a deeper sounding voice. They say things like, "Hear me, listen to this," or "That clicks. Yeah, that really clicks. I'm in tune. Sounds good. I hear what you're saying. That rings a bell." So their language is going to be more like that. And the people who are auditories tend to talk. It's almost as if they're making a speech to themselves. Okay? "I believe that justice needs to be done because the other driver was reckless and he could have killed me." And they're just kind of talking to themselves. But you're there, you know. So most speeches, whether or not the politician or whomever is really an auditory, most speeches come out like auditory, okay? Like John F. Kennedy, okay? "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." So that would be very auditory, okay? It's rhythmic and it's not like the visual. The visual is just going to be machine gun style, really fast. Auditory is pacing, or they're going to say it's slower. Imagine Darth Vader. You don't know the power of the dark side. That's auditory. I mean, that's his voice, okay? And there are people who, kind of talk like that, okay? And then there's another one, kinesthetic. Kinesthetic feelings. There's deep, slow pauses, very physical. Now, when I was in Hawaii, many of the Polynesians were kinesthetic. I mean, a lot of my clients came in, they were 400 pounds. You know, it's like, you're so hot. Oh, I got big problem. I feel so bad. So feelings and slower and things like that. And so you want to, again, always matching mirror, you know, you give the same kind of feedback, yeah, it feels like it's a bad situation for you, but I think we can get a handle on things, you know, you retain me, and I think I've got a good feel for the situation. You're going to start, again, matching and mirroring down, but it's not always slow. Some people who are kinesthetics also have a lot of body movements, and a real good example of that was, I remember Muhammad Ali, when I remember the video clip of him when he says, "I float like a butterfly, I sting like a bee, the hands can't hit, what the eyes can't see." Okay, so he's moving his hands, and his eyes are getting really big. And he's a boxer, and kinesthetic is feeling. So athletes tend to be more kinesthetic, and so even though Muhammad Ali talked fast, it was still kinesthetic, he's moving his whole body. Other people might just sit with their hands in their lap. Yeah, I don't know. This is what happened. I was driving my car. But he's moving around. Okay, that's a sign of a person who processes things kinesthetically. Okay? And now the last one for verbal is auditory digital. Auditory, that's weird, right? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, auditory digital, a language pattern for auditory digital is they're highly logical, analytical thinking. That makes sense. Let me think about it. In the movies, most robots are going to be auditory digital, like the Terminator. I'll be back. Hasta la vista, baby. That's weird. I mean, if you're going to say hasta la vista, you might say, hey, hasta la vista, see you later. He says, hasta la vista, baby. Or I'll be back. There's something weird about how he's talking, and that's the auditory digital. There's a TV show called The Big Bang or something, Big Bang something, and there's a little boy. There's one where he's a little boy and one where he's a grown-up, Sheldon Cooper. He talks auditory digital. He's not like an ordinary little kid. Right? He talks about something. He's almost like he's an adult or he's a child, but he's like a scientist. There's something different about how he's communicating.
So his character is like not a lot of body movement, not a lot of hand movement, just.
That's right. Right.
Okay. So if I were to try to befriend him, I would want to try to match and mirror that, not like my body all over the place like Muhammad Ali.
Exactly. You'll scare him. And then you won't be in rapport and you won't accomplish anything.
Okay, I like that. That makes sense. So I think I really like that Big Bang example. I really do. That's actually really hits a nail on the head.
Okay. Well, the other examples would be like Lost in Space. I love that when I was a kid. I loved watching that show. Robbie the Robot. This does not compute. The robot would say, this does not compute. Or Star Trek's Spock. Captain, this is illogical. That's auditory digital. Illogical, logic, analytical thinking, like a scientist or a robot. So those are the four with, the verbal and some nonverbal thrown in there too. But now I'm going to focus completely on some nonverbal cues. When you shake hands exactly as the person is shaking hands with you. But you're in the office, maybe the secretary says, Attorney Meyer, here is Miss Beverly Smith here, and as you're going to shake hands, if she just barely holds your hand, then you barely hold her hand. Don't like squeeze it because you're going to scare her. Okay. Yeah. However, some other guy comes in and he's an ex-Marine or something, and he crushes your knuckle. Well, you try to crush his hand back. So just match the handshake. Then the client is going to sit down. And you're going to sit down, but you're going to let the client sit down first, and you're going to watch how this, prospective new client sits down, or whoever you're dealing with. There's 3 ways they can do this. They could sit at a 90-degree angle, okay? Their back is ramrod straight. Their legs are just like in front of them, and their spine is 90 degrees, okay? Or it could be at an acute angle. They sit down and they lean forward in the chair. Maybe they even pull the chair up closer and put it on your desk. Okay, this is an acute angle, less than 90 degrees. Or maybe they're going to sit down and the angle of their spine is going to be an obtuse angle, greater than 90 degrees. However they sit down, that's how you sit down. If they slump back in the chair, wow, good to see you. I got this big problem with these squatters, these tenants. I don't know what to do about them. They took over my rental property. Well, you kind of sit back and you go, yeah, we have this all the time. I know what you mean. Those squatters, they're drug dealers. Oh, it's terrible. Are the police? But you're going to match and mirror them, at least until the point when you get into rapport, and you stay in rapport for a while, and he likes you, he thinks you really like him,
until they start asking for too many discounts, and then I got to cut them off and break the rapport.
Military discount? How about that?
Oh yeah, but yeah, after the military discount, anything after that, I'm just getting abused.
Right. So at any rate, after you're in rapport, then you can take it to the next step, which is, all right, I can handle this. What we need is an injunction. We're going to have the paperwork. You need to sign here. This is going to cost $1,500 to retain, and then you bring them to where you want to go. Mm-hmm. So you don't just sit there in empathy. I mean, where are we going with this? You got to take it somewhere, like the train. You link up and you take it. Okay, you have to retain me. You got to put down a retainer fee. I got some forms for you to fill out. We need some action, okay? And let me see. The third thing is the body movements. Now, I want to point out, it's not body language. In the 1960s or 70s, there was a book, Body Language. It said if somebody crosses their arms, it means this. If a woman, she crosses her legs, it means that. If a person scratches their head, it means something. No, NLP is not assigning any inherent meaning to any particular body movement. So it's not like body language means something, okay? It doesn't. You're just going to match and mirror the body movements of the other side. Not stupidly, but discreetly, okay? As you're talking to someone, they put their hand to their chin and they have their elbow. You wait, 5-10 seconds, then you do that. You put your hand up and to your chin, and it could be exactly like in a mirror or opposite. That person's got their right hand. You match with your left hand, or you go with your own right hand, or they fold their arms over their chest, or they cross their legs. You want to cross your legs. So this is watching this body language, these body movements, and you're going to mirror. You're going to match and mirror. But once again, there is no particular meaning to any particular movement. Now, I know that out there, let's say for military interrogation or something, they might go further. They might know what something means or not, but I don't know.
I was intel officer when I was in the Army. I was an intel officer in Iraq and for the detainee facility in Baghdad, and this was after Abu Ghraib. So I had nothing to do with that. And but I do know that when I was there, at least there were no illegal interrogations or anything. But I did talk to some of we called them interviews. We didn't call them interrogations because interrogation means you can't stop the interview. But if somebody's being interviewed, that's kind of understood that they can ask to stop the interview at any time. So whatever. So anyways, but I had talked to an interviewer. Sometimes the media calls them interrogators, but whatever. But they said something interesting. I was talking to one. He said sometimes they offer the detainee a cigarette, and then they'll smoke a cigarette with the detainee. To kind of let the detainee know that, hey, I'm down here. I'm down here at your level. You can talk to me, buddy. Is that like match and mirroring?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And it's getting into rapport. Two people sitting there smoking some cigarettes before the next round of talking commences. Sure. Yes, that's just getting into rapport. Now, I'll tell you this. There are some people who say that even something like NLP, it's like, is this some secret, like you're hypnotizing the other side? You will sign I see you signing my attorney-client fee agreement. We will do that. No. But sometimes people say, well, you're too good at, getting in rapport and leading people where you want to go. That's not right. But that really, it doesn't make sense. If you want good open communication and you're a business person, okay, and you want to know, do I want to represent this person? Does this person, want to hire me? You kind of have to have upfront, succinct, talk about, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I see your situation, and you want to get to the point, okay? So I'm just saying that some people say NLP is too good, and it's almost could it be an unethical way? But I don't think so. I'm just tossing that out there because I've heard that criticism, but I don't believe it. Here, let me give you an example of why that is not the case, okay? See, I'm done now with the nonverbal cues. We did the verbal, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, auditory, digital. We did the nonverbal, the handshakes, the sitting down, the miscellaneous body movements. There are other NLP techniques like leading and pacing and anchoring, and it involves like figuring out what is important to that person. And I'll give you an example, especially with new associate attorneys, okay? They're scared. They're interviewing a client for the first time or something. The person says they want a divorce, and the associate starts talking and talking and talking. He goes back to 1066 and the Magna Carta, and he just talks everything out. Maybe the person just said, it's an uncontested divorce. How fast is this going to be? Okay? You identify the burning ember in what's important to the other side, and you fan that burning ember into a flame. In the car accident situation, many Chinese clients of mine, one of the first things they say is they don't want to go to court. Could I help them, but they don't want to go to court. And over again, I hear the same thing, the same quote from Chinese prospective new clients. Going into court is going into the mouth of a tiger. Okay, I've heard that countless times. So as soon as I start hearing that or sensing, that's all I'm going to talk about. Okay, well, you're going to treat, we're going to get the bills and records, and we'll wrap this up as soon as you can. You want it done before the Chinese New Year? Okay, we will do everything we can. But I'm not going to talk about trial. That's what the associate attorney does. Well, if we have to go to trial, we have to do interrogs, production of documents, request for admissions, and there'll be depositions. Wait a minute. This person just said they don't want to go into court. Why are you, brand new associate attorney, throwing all these logs and sticks and dried leaves onto that burning ember? The only thing you needed to do was to fan the burning ember like, okay, we're not going to go into court. Okay, I'll negotiate. We'll get the best we can. And if you don't want to go into court, hey, I work for you. We're not going to go into court. We'll wrap this thing up out of court. That's it. That's all you have to talk about. TMI, too much information. If you start, and if it's appealed, then we'll have to get an appellate attorney. And wait a minute, they're not talking about that. what's important to them, focus on that, fan that ember.
Okay,
And then
I
they'll
like
be
that. I like that.
happy. Yeah. So that's, and yeah, that's called like leading and pacing, okay? I've gone really fast here.
Oh yeah, you covered a lot. I did want to comment though. You mentioned Spock, very
Yes.
auditory, very logical. Not a lot
Auditory
of
digital.
auditory digital. Not a lot of body movement. Not a lot of body
Yep.
language. But
Yep.
it reminded me of that Star Trek movie. I had to look it up. It's Star Trek Into Darkness. I think it was a 2017 movie. He fell in love with the other woman on the ship, Uhura, the African American woman.
Okay.
But yeah, the funny part about the movie was the entire. It's part of like a subplot was like they're fighting, they're quarreling because they were talking past each other. He's very, what did he say? Auditory, digital, and
yeah.
she is more of an emotional person, needs more of like a body language. And that was like the disconnect was, I think that was the whole premise of that subplot was they were having trouble finding common ground, building a rapport with each other because he's like the logical Spock and she needs that more like, there's no body language coming from Spock, and maybe that's part of her need. So it's just reminding me. So I think that's
logical.
I think for the listeners, think about Star Trek Into Darkness. That disconnect between Spock and his girlfriend. I think that really hits the nail on the head with how miscommunications in NLP, especially if you're in like a relationship and you can't even build rapport with your partner, that's going to cause problems. Yes. And I remember Spock had to jump into a volcano to save a planet, and he came back to the ship, and his girlfriend was furious at him because he didn't even think about that he could have been hurt. And he's doing it because what did they say? The needs of the many are outweigh the needs of the few. He says something idiotic like that to his girlfriend, and then she even gets more furious.
Yeah.
So,
that's a perfect example of being out of rapport. You know, even though they both might like each other, they're going past one another. They're not connecting.
Well, one of them's going to pay me a retainer one day, so it's okay.
Yep. Well, anyway, Christopher, I just want to conclude by saying, you know, NLP can help people connect with others. That's what it's all about, connecting with others, okay? And you identify their preferred representational system, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, auditory, digital, and that's how they're processing information, especially communication. So you'll have clear communication if you're both in rapport. Empathy is very similar to rapport. Rapport is, like I said, a little more transactional, push it more. And through rapport, you use the matching, the mirroring, the verbal, nonverbal cues. You create this sense of shared experience and understanding. And the outcomes are pretty much always good, positive. I have used this for my whole legal career. At this point, it's 43 years. It's worked for me. And like I mentioned early, NLP has a lot more to it. I just did the tip of the iceberg. I did the simplest, most basic things. And you know what? In my opinion, that's all anyone needs.
Can you do me a favor?
There's a lot more, and it's too heavy. It's too.
If you
too
when I publish a podcast, there's gonna be an article associated with this podcast. If there's anything you want to share with the audience, please let me give it to me. I'm gonna put it right there in the article portion associated with the podcast. So yeah, if you have any great like resources or other ways to explain it, I'd be happy to share that.
All right. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you for inviting me.
Cool. No, thank you. And that's our hour. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Ken. And I'd love to talk to you again sometime. So.
All right. Hey, likewise. Dinner or something.
No. It'll be on me. I look forward to it. Okay.
Hey, thank you for your military service. Even though it was the Army. I mean, it wasn't the Navy, but it's okay.
Well, by the way, I'll leave you on this. I get a lot of military clients, a lot of service members, a lot of veterans. I like Navy clients because they actually followed my advice. So yeah, they actually listen to me. So they get the best. They get Navy veterans get the best outcomes because they actually listen to their lawyer. Space Force. I haven't had any Space Force clients. They're too new.
Yeah.
Coast Guard are too rare. Let's see here. Air Force. I never have Air Force divorces because they all have perfect marriages. Army, and I'm kind of sad as my own branch, but Army and Marines give me the most problems. They don't follow my advice, and have to go. The court has to get involved. This happened several times.
Yep.
So I love my Navy veterans. So
excellent.
Thank you for your service in the Navy.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Take care. All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.